Okay, so this question is really the sort of question I could talk all day on, and it's what are the consequences of mismanaging your patent program? And I have to start by going through some of the reasons why you might have a patent program, and there's many different reasons. Large companies tend to have a patent program to use it defensively, to avoid competitor litigation, so that somebody might think of suing them, but they're like, they'll countersue with all these patents. So that's the defensive patent portfolio strategy, and that's what large companies are doing. And I'll start there. Mismanagement, it's a tough one to know how many patents you should file, because really you're filing the patents as a hedge against somebody else initiating lawsuits, which is hard to predict. And nobody really knows how many lawsuits you might avoid with your patent portfolio. What I will tend to do for the larger companies is we'll look at the competitors in the space and we'll look at their patent portfolios to see how large they are. And you might say, well, there's a competitor, they're twice as big in the marketplace, and they have 10 times the number of patents. So maybe we have to increase our patent portfolio by 5x to get something that's similar, so that we have half the number of patents, but we're half the size in the marketplace. That might be one way to look at it. You also want to gauge, too, how litigious people are. Sometimes there's just not much litigation going on, and you can perhaps not file as many patents. Of course, everybody's trying to file their best patents, and it's hard to know at the time of filing what's going to be very valuable to the industry. So that's a hard one to gauge. Sometimes after you've filed them, you can get a sense on what are your good patents or your bad patents. When I'm building out a portfolio for a client, what I always like to see is that they get that one patent that just so happens is pretty crucial to everybody in the industry. Maybe it's not the best patent in many regards, but nonetheless, it's the sort of thing that's going to scare a lot of people into not thinking about any sort of patent lawsuit. So that's a defensive patent portfolio. If you're a small company, what small companies tend to file patents for is to keep the large players perhaps from expanding into their space. But before that point, it's really a way to attract investment. Is if you've got some patents on file or some issued patents, you're treated differently when it comes to valuation. There's studies that show as much, and you're more likely to attract capital, and there's studies that show as much. So small companies are filing patents to perhaps precipitate being acquired, to make it more attractive for investment, or if they grow into being one of these large companies, it's the start of a big portfolio that might help them defensively. But certainly to attract investment is very important. So, if you're a small company within your enterprise, you really don't need much support. Small companies tend to be very focused, and they know what their important innovation is, and they know how they differentiate from the marketplace. It's the same sort of thing that their salespeople are bragging about. They're typically solving a problem, and it's very evident what that problem is, and you tend to be keenly aware of what the competition is doing over time. So you focus in on that, and it requires very little effort to know exactly what's going on. You have one product. This is the key thing. It cleans laundry 20% better, right? And that's what your salespeople are bragging about. That's what's on the outside of the box. You want to focus in your innovation on that, rather than these people that are building large portfolios. For them, it's really a shotgun approach, is what we'll call it, where they just file on everything, and who knows what's going to be valuable. A small company really filing on the things that are important. And what I'll often see is that you'll get some patents filed on something, and then there'll be a pivot, and then there's no patents filed. What ultimately is going to happen if you look at your exit strategy, like acquisition or maybe go it alone, whatever kind of the 5-year plan is. when somebody goes to acquire you, they're interested in a particular thing that you offer. Maybe you have 3 products, they tend to be interested in one. And the first thing that I do when I'm representing the large company on the other side of this is I say, look, tell me how your patent portfolio protects this thing that we're interested in. So you want to keep your patent portfolio relevant to what's interesting at your company. And that changes over time. And you may think it's all about this today. Well, tomorrow it's going to be all about that. And you may have filed a lot of patents on this and not that. And you'd be surprised the number of times I get into that due diligence process and I talk to them about their patents and they're like, we have tons of patents on this. And I say, well, my client's interested in that. So I have to report back that you may be interested in that business for whatever reason. Maybe they have sales, maybe they have customers, maybe you like the employees, but there is no patent play that protects what your interest is. So getting your portfolio and your filings to match what is interesting for your end strategy is important. And the large companies will do that too, where when they're filing patents, they tend to file them in line with where they see the business opportunity. And they might prune back where they don't see the business opportunity. So always trying to stay aligned with what your end strategy might be. So if it's for a defensive patent portfolio, well, maybe this area is really litigious and people have lots of patents, so we file more patents there. And this area, it's not litigious, even though there might be lots of innovation. We file patents less there. So really do the soul searching to figure out what you want to get out of your patent portfolio, and then be laser focused on that strategy over time, because everything changes as you go along. And you may not think that that will be the case, but it's always the case as I look at things over the decades as I've represented people. And with those changes, you want to go back in and perhaps file more, maybe prune some of the patents, abandon some things, maybe sell some things. Doing that on a regular basis will make sure that you avoid the big mistakes and problems that people have with their patent portfolio. So I hope that answers the question. If it didn't, please put something in the comments and we'll get to it in a further video. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.